Hello, and welcome to the 16-ounce canvas, the art of craft beer. This is episode 3, as usual. I'm AJ Kierans. I am your host for this adventure. So far, so good. Hopefully you enjoyed episode 1 and episode 2. And if you didn't, that's okay too. You're back with us for episode 3, featuring Luke Snobeck, art director for Spiteful Brewing, based out of Chicago, Illinois. You might not be familiar with Spiteful, so that might be another cool feature of the show for you, getting turned on to a new brewery. I highly recommend you get a chance to check them out. I've had the pleasure of enjoying several of their different offerings throughout the Chicago area, and I suggest you do the same. Check them out at spitefulbrewing.com. It was great to catch up with Luke, learn how he became employee number 1, some of the inside jokes, which I think you'll definitely appreciate about some of the beers, that process, and just see what Luke's up to in and outside of the brewery. Luke Snobeck, the artist. Another great episode. I want to thank you once again for being a part of this adventure. 16ozcanvas.com. That's 16ouncecanvas.com for everybody scoring at home. And remember out there when you're throwing up your pictures, your beer porn or whatever you're calling it, give us a little love. Hashtag 1616OZCanvas. I'd love to see what you're doing out there. As always, looking for new artists. We've got a great lineup coming up for you. But right now, without further ado, it's Luke Snobeck, Spiteful Brewing, right here on the 16-ounce canvas, the art of craft beer. Boom, 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 boom. Enjoy, folks.
Well, again, thank you for being a part of it. We have Luke Snobeck here with us today at 16-ounce canvas, art director at Spiteful Brewing, based out of Chicago. If you have yet to check them out, please do so. Luke, can you give us kind of a little bit of background? How did you, team up with the brewery, and just your background as an artist? Where are you coming to us from?
I went to school. Well, I grew up in Minnesota, and I went to school at St. Cloud State University, and I studied painting there. I got my undergraduate there, BSA in painting, and then after I graduated there, I moved to Chicago. And then how did I come up with the brewery, or how did I meet those guys?
Yeah.
So once I moved here, my first job I was a bike messenger downtown. And that's where I met Brad Schaefer, one of the co-owners of Spiteful. He was currently a bike messenger as well, and he had plans to open a brewery. So he quit that and just focused on the brewery side of what he wanted to do, and I continued working as a bike messenger, and Spiteful kind of, came to be a real thing, and I did a couple labels for him while I was still messengering, and I continued to help him out with artwork after I think about a year after they were up and running and had beer on the shelves, and then when they were able to afford an employee, I was the first one that they brought on.
That's a pretty good honor, distinction to have, to be employee number 1.
Yeah.
Now, what was the first of those early labels that you did do?
The first one I did was Ghost Bike Pale Ale, which was in a bomber, which was all that we did for the beginning. I think 2.5 years that we opened up, and then we started doing cans. That was the first one I did myself, and then he had other friends that would do artwork, and then that would get handed off to me, and I would bring it into the computer and color it and do the layout and everything and send it to get printed. So even if I didn't do the full label, I was involved in most of the early on ones with coloring and layout.
Now, yeah, and there's also several of the labels and the beer names, Pale pay homage to the bike messenger life, right? You have messenger IPA. I believe there's one bike messenger, and then even just the alley time, right, with all the bikes. There's probably a few other ones.
Yeah, the alley time is came from when we were messengers. We all always would go to this one alley and drink High Life, or yeah, it was mostly High Life that we drank in there. High Life and Ice House in this alley because no one would bug us. So we'd get off work from a long day and just go to the alley and have a beer and just get on the radio to each other and say alley time. Yep, alley time, and meet everybody there.
Oh, great! That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, how was it being a bike messenger? What was the? Did you all have this certain things you were delivering, or?
Kind of. So a lot of it was stuff for lawyers and architects, blueprints and stuff, and then lawyer stuff being ran back and forth. I had to have actual physical signatures on it. So we would show up downtown and just checking on the radio, and then we would just start getting work handed to us as it came in. So the day was pretty much totally random for what we were doing.
Yeah. Now, were you still doing art on the side? Do you still paint?
Yeah, I still paint. I draw more than I paint now, and I'm drawing with this comic book club called the Trouble Club in Chicago here. So local artists that focus on comics, and I really like to add like a humorous side and some text to my artwork. So I think that fits in pretty good.
Oh yeah, I think several of them have that four-pane storyboard style on the labels. I believe it's the Four Wiener series? Like kind of.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Yep, that's the Wiener series. And yeah, the first one was the selfies are for wieners, and I liked the idea of the 4 panels, so we just decided to keep that for the rest of the Wiener beers.
Yeah, I think that was one of the first times. I mean, I had Spiteful and GFY, and I have to crack it open. I have I think I have a barrel aged goddamn pigeon porter in the basement. But that was like, I think that was when I'd come back to town. I was like, oh, what did they have from, like, that was the first time I'd go to several of the spots, and I remember going and saying, oh, what's new from Spiteful? And they're like, we have this new one. There's like, the guy was laughing as he was telling it to me. I was like, that's the name of the beer? He's like, yeah, selfies are for wieners. And I was like, all right, cool. Let's get one of those.
Yeah, we all have a pretty strong dislike for selfies at the brewery.
Oh yeah, I definitely. Yeah, if anyone hasn't checked out the website, spitefulbrewing.com, but what I like is all the artwork is up there for a lot of the beers, and it's definitely, it's pretty, you get a good sense of the vibe of the brewery, I feel, and it's probably a little bit, muted a little bit, but yeah, it's definitely a little anti-corporate, which I really think is awesome, and I think you guys have an opinion, and I love how do the names of the beers come up? Do they have any correlation to the style, or is it more like, let's talk about a topic and then we'll figure out what we're going to make as the beer later?
Yeah, it's more topical for the name of the beer instead of a direct correlation to the style. But when I do a label, I base that off of the name, and then seems like the color palette that I choose is more based off the style. Like if it's IPA or a pale ale or something light, I'll choose a lighter color palette, and if it's a darker beer, I'll choose some more neutral, darker colors. Generally.
Looking at them, that actually is a subtlety I probably never would have picked up on. So that's really interesting. So, how far out between the brewing and the artwork? How is that process for you?
So I'll get a name of the beer maybe 3 or 4 weeks before I have to send it into print. and I send it into print about a week after it gets brewed, so the printer has enough time to turn around the proof to me and get it printed and sent out. So yeah, I usually have 3 to 4 weeks to make a label.
When you first started doing that, how was that? Was it difficult for you to work on such kind of, I guess, small canvas, or were you familiar with the pressing and the packaging and the labeling process, or was that some kind of trial and error period for you?
Drawing wise, I usually would work pretty small, so I was kind of used to about that scale. But as far as the beer, the label as a canvas, definitely different between like bombers and cans, and even like a 12 ounce between a 16 ounce can. Like a 12 ounce can, you definitely have more than one side to it. You can't really give it a front or a back. It's more viewed, 360. And I think, to me at least, 16 ounce, that you can dedicate like a front to it, and maybe almost, I've seen people do like the same image reflected on the label to have like a front and back. And then bombers definitely have a front to it. I like them all. I think maybe 12 ounce is my favorite to do. Maybe working with as one continuous image going around. I like that.
Okay. And one of the subtleties or the things that maybe the stories behind each beer that are on the label, is that also you, or is that kind of the team? How is because they're pretty hilarious. So who comes up with kind of the...
In the beginning, it was more of a group effort, but lately it's been, I've been doing pretty much all of it and then sending it back to the guys to get some edits and stuff. But in the beginning, we all tried to work on it, and we'd all be going in different ways, and it was just kind of took longer than it should. So
I can imagine. Many sessions of trying to, because really it's basically a short paragraph, so you're trying to get it all in there, and probably one of those ones, too many cooks in the kitchen. So that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of got all dedicated to me at one point, and then I would kind of give it a general feel and send it out, and people would have some suggestions or edit and send it back, and then I would refine it. But that's actually one of the harder parts of working on the label for me. You got like 4 or 5 sentences, and then it's hard to start a story and end a story in that amount of time and have it be funny.
Right. And as an artist,
at least.
Yeah. And as an artist, you're probably like, I'm telling my story with my art, and now I have to actually tell it in a verbatim. It's kind of
yeah, exactly.
An image is supposed to say so many words. Now you have to say it in this 6, in these 6 to 8 sentences. Probably actually less of you, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably around 6, but it's fun. It's a good challenge. I enjoy having that little blurb on the side.
Like I said, it's unique, and I think it adds an extra element to it that when I was going through some of them, I didn't realize as much as went into it, or the little stories. So I do appreciate that, and it's great to know that that's you. So when it comes over with the name, it has kind of a what the premise was, or where the mindset was, with it.
Well, we would do the side blurb based off of the name. Yeah, the name would be first, and then we'd come up with the text on the side. Excuse me.
Bless you. So we talked about before, there's the 4 Wieners series, and how many of those, is that ongoing? Is it more, or if there's ones planned for the future, is it more when kind of pop culture or things become quote unquote norms that people have their opinions about? And I think there's man bun, hashtags, group text, corporate life, I think is one. And then
there's a networking.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think you got them all.
Nice. All right.
Yeah. I think we have one coming out soon, but that we're trying to keep it more of like our fruited IPAs. That's kind of or adjunct IPAs. That was kind of our series that we were doing that with. All those beers have like Selfies is honey, networking is passion fruit. I can't think of exactly what the other ones are, but
Man buns is kiwi.
Kiwi, yeah. So yeah, that's an ongoing thing, and kind of this something comes up in just conversation around the brewery, like, oh, that'd be fun to poke fun at in a beer label, and we'll do a beer based on that. It's kind of one of those that can't really be forced.
Right. Yeah. It's they speak for themselves, and I think to your point, right? If every of the beer you guys came out with became a Four Wieners series, it would kind of lose some of its street cred.
Yeah, for sure.
So for those that scoring at home, how would you describe your aesthetic from like artistically, like for it's and your process?
Aesthetically, as far as like label wise, generally in the beer world, I'd say it's a little bit raw and somewhat unrefined, as opposed to like regular like graphic design mentality of making a label, where it's all clean and symmetrical and made in the computer. All my labels I do are all hand drawn, and then I'll scan it in and do the color and layout. And I usually use Photoshop for the labels. I use Illustrator too, but I tend to use that more if I'm doing like a event flyer or something that's more text-based. But yeah, I'd say it's a little bit kind of rough around the edges sometimes. If that makes sense at all.
Yeah, I think that it's not I think they're not refined is the best way to put it, and not the hand drawn. It has a little cartoon aspect to it. It reminds me a little bit of Mike Judd, from I think like the let's see that a little
King
bit.
of the Hill and Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, I think I think it's I think that there's some other. Yeah, I think that you guys must love The Simpsons. There's a Disco Stew beer. I definitely, like I said, I feel that you guys are a good bunch over there.
Yeah, we've got a few Simpson reference beers. We got that one, and then we have Cletus the Slack-Jawed Yokel.
Right. Good. Yeah.
And also we did a 16-ounce 4-pack called "You Don't Win Friends with Salad."
Yes.
Which,
if you don't know that song, reference. Yeah, if you're listening to this and you don't know that, you should just pause this and go Google that, and then you won't be able to get that song out of your head.
We interrupt this episode to share with you a classic Simpsons moment.
Dad, can't you have some other kind of party, one where you don't serve meat?
But all normal people love meat. If I went to a barbecue and there was no meat, I would say, "Yo, Goober, where's the meat?" I'm trying to impress people here, Lisa. You don't win friends with salad.
You don't win friends with salad. You don't win friends with salad.
You don't win friends with salad. You don't win friends with salad. You don't win friends with salad. You don't win friends with salad.
You don't win friends with salad. You don't win friends with salad. You don't win friends with salad. Mom!
And now back to our regularly scheduled program.
That comes up sometimes when it's like, oh, tonight we're having dinner, and I'm like, oh, what's for dinner? Oh, we're having a salad with this, and I'm like, oh, and then I got my kids singing that once, and the wife was not appreciative.
I could imagine.
And even I just pulled up the man buns are for wieners, and it has the kind of Bart Simpson, writing on the chalkboard. I mean, I know that punishing kids to write on a chalkboard was not a Simpsons origination, but it's when you see a kid writing on a chalkboard, the first thing you think of is Bart Simpson. At least I do.
Yeah, the Simpsons definitely had an influence behind that part of the label for sure.
Excellent.
All right. All you cool cats out there. You're listening to the 16-ounce canvas, the art of craft beer. We are at the halfway point here, interviewing the art director for Spiteful Brewing, Luke Snobeck, the man himself responsible for the great labels that make up Spiteful, all the crafty little stories on the side panels, and the comic book man himself, part of the Chicago Trouble Club. And a big reveal coming up next. Remember, folks, tell your friends, spread the word, all you beer geeks. We mean that in the most positive and kind of way. It takes one to know one. And, we thank you for subscribing, sharing, downloading, pirating, whatever you're into. We're just glad that you're joining us here at the 16-ounce canvas, the Art of Craft Beer podcast. We'll have a new one for you every Friday. We've locked down our first 12-pack of artists, and we're really excited who we have in the future for you. We're only at episode 3, and we are just getting started. We are going to keep doing this all year long. Bring you artists from across the country, and hopefully one day around the world. But again, this episode features Luke Snobeck. Snobeck. From Spiteful Brewing. Check them out, spitefulbrewing.com. Learn all about their artwork, all their great beers. If you have a chance to get in the Chicago area, pick yourself up a sixer of Spiteful IPA. It's their flagship beer, and it is great. Again, Luke Snobeck, right here, the 16-ounce canvas, the art of craft beer. We're going to get right back into it. Enjoy.
And are you lunch beer Luke? I have to assume so, unless you have multiple Lukes at the brewery.
I am, yes. The one and only. I used to have a beer at lunch pretty much every day, but I slowed that down.
Yeah, and your lunch beer Luke is a double IPA, which is, that's a pretty it's a good lunch commitment right there.
That is, yes. Only one of those at lunch.
Yeah, only one. Yeah, exactly. Now, that would be hard for me. Is I think working at the brewery and especially all the new beers. You want to try it and see what that tastes like, and then you have your favorites. Is there a favorite that your favorite Spiteful or your top that you're excited when that comes back around?
I really like the beers that we put out in the 6-packs, the Alley Time and the Spiteful IPA. Because they're more crushable. You can, drink them all day long, have a few of them, and, not feel it too much. I generally like hoppier beers, just personally myself. Just drinking a few, like I'll have a stout or a porter, but if I'm going to drink a few beers, I like IPAs or pale ales.
Yeah, I agree. When I'm in Chicago, and I definitely always grab a 6-pack of the Spiteful. I mean, I'm only in for a couple of days, but I, have the hotel room beers. They're much better than what's usually served at the hotel. So that's I've come to love that, and the can is very distinctive. I think so. It's like I can just see it when I'm coming in. I'm like, all right, boom, there it is, and then I figure out which beer.
Really stick out.
Yeah, exactly, and it's really a great look. It has a hand-drawn feel to it, but still has that kind of repetitive pattern that fits around the whole can. I think it's really nicely done.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh yeah, I appreciate. Like I said, I appreciate the artwork, and I think with technology and the ability for people to can easier than they've really ever been before, I think it's just a great. It's just kind of a. I think it's a turning point. I think you've seen more craft beer in cans in the last 2 years probably than you've seen, I think, ever, and I think that's great. I mean, from a distribution standpoint, it's much easier to keep in the truck. You can fit more in the truck, and then Mother Earth is happy too.
Yeah, absolutely. And the beer stays fresher as well. It's
Yeah.
all around package, and you can, bring it to the beach where they don't allow glass. Well, they probably don't allow beer either, but.
Well, 1 out 2, right?
Glass.
You say to them, hey, it's not glass, and they're like, all right,
Yeah, got that going for me. Come on.
Yeah, I think and it's usually some kid who's like, on his college break working there. So I mean, it's not really this like massive shakedown. It's like, come on, all right, cool, all right. Yeah, we used to go to a lot of music festivals, and that was really the problem. Every summer, you'd have like 2 or 3 beers you could choose from, and then it just kind of exploded. I'm in Connecticut, and so we're in the New England area, and I think one of the first traditional quote unquote was like Magic Hat Number 9 did that, and it was like, oh, wow, okay, and then just started popping up like crazy, and now everybody does it.
They started canning.
Yeah, it was Number 9 was one of the first ones they canned. That was traditionally a bottle beer. I mean, I know that Oscar Blues, with their their IPA, they were one of the first ones to do that. Early 2000s, but it really wasn't a universal thing for a long time. So I think the canning is it's pretty great.
Yeah, and then Oscar Blues did that a larger format can too.
Yeah, they do the 1050, which is like a 19.2 ouncer. So it's
that's a pretty fun size.
Yeah, it's pretty. That's a commitment. It's definitely that's definitely kind of, it's like 2 beers in one sitting. It's like, oh, I have 1 beer. It's like, all right. It's like getting the boot at like a German place. Like, oh, it's only 1 beer, but it's like 40 ounces.
Sure.
So another, which is nice. Also, you also have different series is kind of intertwined, and the goddamn Pigeon Porter has a slew of variations. How does that go? Is that just something that everyone's just trying to, evolve or play with or try different tweaks on it? I mean, there's a whole section on the website that just is all of the goddamn.
Yeah, dedicated to that. Yep, dedicated to that. We've made a lot of those variations, and it's probably our favorite beer to play around with the base style, with the base beer and adding adjuncts to it. It's pretty much if anybody has a good idea, and if it's doable for the recipe, and I think if it's doable, we think we can pull off that flavor profile for an idea for it. We'll give it a try. All those different flavors that just kind of came up from us brainstorming and like, oh, I'd like to try that in a beer. Well, why don't we try it? Kind of that sort of thing.
Now, for folks who don't know about Spiteful, on a regular basis, how many different beers are being brewed, at the brewery?
Let's see. That's a good question. So we have 7 5-barrel tanks, and we have 5 7-barrel tanks. And then, all right, so we package on Monday and Tuesday. We package 3 tanks, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we brew those back up. And let's see, I think now monthly we're coming out with 2 or 3 bombers a month, and then the rest of the time the tanks are mostly dedicated to the cans, Alley Time, and Spiteful IPA, and Goddamn Pigeon Porter, and Working for the Weekend.
Okay.
yeah, I don't know if that answered your question very good or not, but there's a lot to think of. We got a lot of tanks.
Right. Yeah. I think that it's interesting just to see that process. It's usually more tanks and less space, and it's like a dance going from each and making sure that there's certain days, and then you could, I just always find it. I find it impressive how what's able to be done with the space and knowing when this beer is going to come out, and what we have to do, and yeah,
Yeah, Brad really has the schedule dialed in to a T. It's always package 3 tanks and then brew those 3 tanks back up at the end of the week.
Now, you were employee number 1. How many folks are on the Spiteful team now?
We have 2 other employees besides me. So it's Brad and Jason are the co-owners, and then Andy, he's the brewer, and Calvin is our sales, distribution, and marketing guy.
Oh,
So
excellent.
yeah, right now we do all self-distro.
Right, and that was actually, high five. That was my next question. One of the things I loved when I first was introduced to the brewery was the fact that I checked multiple occasions, and everyone said that you guys, I think it's some alcohol law that based on the amount of alcohol made or something, that you're able to self distribute in Chicago, and that you guys would hand deliver it to the different stores. And so I just thought that was really, really intimate, and I thought it was really great, which made it more, which you could tell that the people at the different stores I would visit, it wasn't just another brewery that was on the shelf.
Yeah, it's great for us too, because we can sort of handpick what stores we want to be in, and we are in control of the beer from the time it leaves the brewery till it gets to them. So we know exactly what's going on with it, and yeah, I think it's a lot better that way, even though it's more work.
Yeah, I definitely. I don't want to minimize the extra work, but it definitely goes a long way. I've heard many a story of it goes to distribution and someone jacks the prices up,
and we have no clue
right.
where it goes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't have that. Yeah. It doesn't give you much control. And I think that while you have that, I think it's important, and you obviously come to learn who's, a genuine supporter, and, what markets you're stronger in, It's because Chicago is a great beer town, and I have to imagine it can be very competitive. So I think it's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, do you have your own, does the crew, do you have a local spot? Is there a local kind of, Spiteful bar that, gets more of your beers than other places?
Not that I could say off the top of my head. Every spot that we're on tap at has pretty much supported us from the beginning. So we, try to support them equally as much as we can.
That was very diplomatic. I realized as I asked that question, I was like, somebody's going to get pissed off if he answers that. Yeah, we love Joe's, and Joe gets all the awesome barrel aged special stuff, and yeah. So
we try to delegate as equally as we can, because literally we're not at a ton of bars on tap, so pretty much every bar that we're in has literally supported us from the beginning, which is awesome.
That is awesome. Now, you have come out with several, barrel-aged beers, absinthe-aged beers. Now, how is that at the brewery? Because, those obviously, you're saying you have a system. Is that, is that a certain space in the brewery, or how is that process?
For barrel aging, we have a small section where we store the barrels. We usually don't barrel age more than, I think around 8 barrels at a time is usually what we have space for. And I mean, when we package them, we just kind of have a longer packaging day on a Monday or Tuesday than we usually would have, so it doesn't really mess with the schedule too much.
Okay.
And yeah, the Absinthe Beer was an interesting one. Did you try any?
No, I did not get to try those. I tried to find those around town but they had flown off the shelves, or I didn't know the secret handshake. That happens sometimes, which I respect that though. I'm not a regular at some of these places, and so I don't hold those grudges. I think it's, they're like, oh, we don't run out of those, and maybe, but it's all right.
Yeah, it was a pretty polarizing beer because it was really kind of heavy on the anise taste, like the black licorice, and yeah, it's because that's what absinthe tastes like, and I think a lot of people maybe hadn't tried absinthe before that and didn't know what it tastes like, so it was probably not what some people were expecting.
Right. Some people are like, oh, this has one of the special, spiteful, kind of almost black and white-esque labels. I have to get this, and it's like, oh, certain special beers come out, and I'm just like, I won't, if they're doing it right and it tastes like it says, I don't like those tastes. So I'm like, I don't have to buy it just because it comes out. Because somebody who really likes that and then can't get it, I'm kind of like, okay, then it's not always worth, no one can hit 1,000 because that's how I look at it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I enjoyed them. I enjoy absinthe and those flavors, and it was a unique barrels to get. We were our neighbors are Leatherby Distillers, and they make a local absinthe here, so we got barrels from them at the time.
I honestly can say I can't think of another brewery that's done an absinthe beer, so I think that's pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, I think they're one of the only distilleries in the country that do their own absinthe.
Yeah, I think of absinthe having, like, the original with the wormwood and having the hallucinogenic effects. So I probably have not delved into that, but I probably should give it a shot.
Yeah, you should try it.
All right.
It's pretty fun. They have like a special dropper. It like drops it really slowly on the top of a sugar cube into a glass. It's kind of a little process.
All right. Well, I will be back in Chicago soon, so I will. I'll hit you up and look for the directions. I'll check it out.
All right.
I'll have Uber on speed dial for the ride home. So obviously there's great brews that you're having, at the quote unquote office, but what are you drinking that's not, spiteful? What's in the fridge?
Oh, my other favorite in town is Half Acre.
Oh, great. Yeah, I like them a lot.
They're the other big one, but Gone Away is my favorite beer from that. I drink that all summer long whenever I see that out. So yeah, gotta go with Half Acre.
Excellent. And earlier we mentioned kind of, the labels and the names of the beers have, either tongue-in-cheek messaging or have a vibe to them. The Dumb Donald, is that given kind of the current climate, is that something that may come back again, or how was that received? Was that? Yeah, I think it was great.
I don't know if it would come back again. I would say don't get your hopes up probably too soon for it. It was received really really positively and also really negatively. There was some, obviously, which still is the situation within. There's some people that really like it and some people that hated it. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I thought it was funny too. I didn't, like I said, I was researching and I didn't even realize that had come out, and so I was trying to find out when it was released, and I think it was in the summertime. So I was just thinking, how some of these labels don't take themselves too seriously. in my mind was like, oh, that would be a great series. I think it might be too easy, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. But yeah, I think it was because I think I saw the label first before I saw the name, and I was like, that looks, oh, there it is. Okay, that's what it is.
That makes sense now.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome.
I like that one too. I would like to bring it back. It's really good beer.
Does that happen often? It seems there's so many beers. Are they usually one off or one or two off? Does that happen a lot? That beers get brought back again? How does that process go?
It's more of they usually get brought back, but it's more like seasonal. We'll do the stouts and the pigeon porters in the winter, and then the double IPAs and the bombers in the summer. So usually they'll pretty much all make their way back into rotation. It just might take a little while.
That's great. That's always the worst when you really like a beer and it's like, oh, that was a one-off. And it's like, oh, great.
They'll be coming back around.
And I have to ask, who is Colin? Is he a friend of yours that's gone the corporate route, or is he just kind of the mascot for the corporate lifestyle?
He was a longtime childhood friend of Brad and Jason's, who I think Brad went to college with too. And yeah, he's gone the corporate lifestyle, and they just really like to pick on him, and thought it'd be really funny if they made a beer series dedicated to making fun of him. And I mean, he hasn't appreciated some of the labels, but yeah, that's Colin, corporate Colin.
Yeah, he's got to have some thick skin for that. I think it's one thing to have your friends bust on you on a reply all email chain, but he's a beer icon now. So I was going through and I was like, wow, there's a lot of Colin. Yeah, poor bastard.
Yeah, I think we've got maybe five beers with his face on the label.
Oh, well, Colin, if you're listening, I feel for you. So I appreciate you having the thick skin.
Yeah, he can definitely take a joke.
Yeah, exactly. He should. Yeah, he should. If he can't, then then I don't know. Then he's really being picked on. It's not as funny if he's got to be kind of upset with it, but not crying upset with it. So
he's doing fine.
Yeah, exactly. Suck it up, Colin. You're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the brewery, or when you're creating the labels, is there music or is there artists that you're listening to while you're creating? In my former life, I was a radio DJ, and if you saw my face, you'd get that. But is there somebody that's kind of or style of music that helps you in the creative process, or are you a silence kind of guy?
No, I like to listen to music, and I enjoy silence too. I will go back and forth, but definitely like to listen to music. And I mostly kind of pretty much all listen to hip hop.
Okay.
A couple of my favorite artists to listen to while I'm working are Aesop Rock, and I'll throw on a lot of Cool Keith. I think they have more abstract-based lyrics, and I think that helps with my workflow a little bit. But those are always my two go-tos.
Okay, excellent.
Are you familiar with either of them?
Yeah, Cool Keith. Yeah,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And being in Chicago, are you White Sox, Cubs? Maybe are you a Twins fan?
To tell you the truth, I really don't pay too much attention to sports.
All right.
But yeah, if I had to pick, I guess I'd have to go Twins, right? From there.
Yeah. If you don't care enough, you can kind of hop in and hop out. That's how I think that.
Yeah, get on the bandwagon.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would. I mean, it must have been a good time with the Cubbies winning. It must have been a good time in Chicago.
Oh yeah, that was intense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I look at it. Like I'm from Philadelphia, and I'm a homer. I'm in New England, and I deal with all that nonsense. But I always like the team that hasn't won. Like that's how I look at it. I'm like, which team has the better story? So like, the Falcons are in the Super Bowl, so that's where I'm going to go. I think that would be good, and I like everybody to have a shot, and I think it works out well. I'm a sucker for. I'm a sucker. Yeah. I'm just a sucker for the vignettes and like all the stories that they do ahead of time, and it's totally ridiculous. It's like 2 weeks between games, and they find anybody who's ever done anything kind of, volunteer or is given to this charity. They get an hour-long special, and then you kind of jerk at your heartstrings. You're like, oh, I guess I'm going to vote for that team. Yeah, it's well done. Yeah, exactly. I have no allegiance to these people, but they made me cry more than this one did, so I'm in.
Got my vote.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm in on that. Awesome. So in terms of the barrel age stuff, what's this won't air for a couple more weeks, so I don't think we've blown up any of your, probably about a month and a half, but is there anything new or kind of that you're working on that folks will be excited about or you're excited about? It's a very leading question, Luke. Obviously, you're excited about all the beers. You love Spiteful, but
yeah, I don't think we have anything brand new aging in the barrels right now that I know of. I don't know. Sometimes there will be a mystery barrel or two that surprises me when it is time to get packaged.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, as far as I know of right now, I don't think there's anything brand new in the barrels that we haven't released yet.
Alrighty. Well, I'm hoping at some point there's a re-release of the GFY coffee. I've never had that. That sounds amazing. So there's a few of the ones, in looking at all the artwork, that I was like, oh man, I hope they release that again. That would be great. But that's totally selfish.
Yeah, actually, GFY coffee will be coming down like the middle of next month or the end of next month. I forget. But
hell yeah.
Not barrel aged, just regular.
That's fine with me. Yeah, I'm down. That's fine with me. That's a great beer. So that's great news.
Yeah.
I'll probably be gone by the time I get back. But anyway, neither here nor there. All right. Well, I thank you very much. I really, like I said before, I think that the artwork you do is great. I think everything, check out spitefulbrewing.com. Great beers being made out of Chicago. I think there's a good energy there. I think they're doing something really unique and not taking themselves too seriously, but putting out a great product, which I think is very unique. And I think that what you're doing from an artistic standpoint is really capturing that essence. And I think it's really cool. And I like the fact that you're writing those stories. If you go to the website, you can see a good amount of the labels. So that part has to be hard. To your point earlier, that has to be one of the more difficult parts of the process. It's like to write that and then get everybody to sign off. So I think you're crushing it.
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate it.
Excellent. Is there now outside of the label artwork world, is there other things that you're working on? Is there other projects from an art standpoint that you're involved in?
No other huge projects, just besides drawing with that comic book club and working on some comic book strips with them. The Trouble Club is what they're called. But otherwise, other than that, I just do some drawing and painting in my apartment, and got nothing huge coming up.
So is that Trouble, TRUBBLE club?
Yep.
Excellent. Yes. Yeah,
how'd you know?
The Google machine helped me.
Right.
Yeah. I wanted to make sure before I plugged it that it was the right place.
Yep. They're kind of a funny, dirty type of comic drawers. I get along with them well.
That's excellent. Yeah, you check it out. There's blog.trouble.club, and it's TR, like rubble, TRUBBLE .club. So people do buy those unique domain extensions, so that's good to know.
Yeah, there's some good comics and some funny stuff, some dark stuff. That's not so funny, but
To each their own, right? Yeah.
yeah.
One man's comedy is the other man's what the fuck.
Sure.
All right.
Oh man,
Don't you go
I
dying
didn't
on
know
me.
where it's cold. I'm trying not to.
Yeah, that'd be a weird way for the interview to go. Let me have the
Yeah,
hello,
very last words.
Luke. Yeah. My last word, was Trouble Club. Yeah, you'd make them very famous really quick. But again, thanks so much, Luke. I do appreciate your time. Like I said, if folks haven't checked out Spiteful, you'll definitely when you're in Chicago. Is there plans for expansion? I mean, I know you guys are at a point where it's probably you're focused on taking over Chicago. But how is that for you guys, the expansion process?
Yeah, we are expanding. We have a building that's gonna be about 2 miles north of where we're at now. We are planning to have a tap room, and
Awesome.
we're getting a few new tanks for production. And we don't have a hard date yet, just because with all the permits with construction and stuff, it's hard to set a date and then make empty promises, So maybe we're hoping for summerish.
Okay.
To have that spot up and running.
Cool. Well, I hope that there's some open space in the walls and other spots that they let you, do some work on and drop some art on. I think that'd be really cool, and I'd be excited to see how that comes out.
Yeah, totally. We're really excited to get into a new space and start making more beer, and then also I'll get pre-printed cans too, instead of the ones that how we're labeling them now. I'm excited to see them fully printed.
Yeah, it's a good evolution, and it's a great product. So I think it's great. So again, Luke Snobeck, Spiteful Brewing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and look forward to my next trip to Chicago and seeing what's available. Hopefully, some of that GFY coffee stout, but we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to talk to me too.
Yeah, I look forward to it, and I look forward to the next for Wieners, and hopefully re-emergence of the Dumb Donald. There's too many. There might be too many to go with in that. The whole series. You probably put on one for each new executive order, but that's neither here nor there. I might edit that out. I'll start getting hate mail, but I do appreciate it.
Well, who knows? He'll probably start picking on us back if that happens.
Yeah, there you go. That can be kind of like, like 1984 sold out. Right? You guys have a chance for that. You can't get any of your beers anywhere because they're the anti-beer.
And there you have it. Luke Snobeck, Spiteful Brewing. What I really like about that interview is the size of the brewery. I think it's great for our first 4-pack. Spiteful is a brewery where it's possible a lot of you have not heard of before. So it's definitely goes to show what the project is all about. We're really focused on artists and trying to get different breweries from around the country, around the world. And it's not necessarily going to be the largest brewery in the world. It's about the artwork. It's about the culture. It's about doing something unique. And I think that's what Spiteful Brewing is doing. Again, one more time, spitefulbrewing.com. Check them out. Let them know we sent you. They are a piece of Chicago and that great craft beer scene. You have listened to episode 3. Already 3 in the books, so that's really exciting for us. We hope you're enjoying the adventure. Check us out on the Instagram, 16OZ Canvas, 16ouncecanvas.com. Use the hashtag, share it, like it, upvote it, whatever you're into. We'll find a way for you to do it. Coming up next on episode 4, we have Dean McKeever. He is a Massachusetts-based artist. He does work with Treehouse. And it's another great story. He is the the final piece of our first 4-pack, which features Dan Blakesley, David Paul Seymour, Luke Snobeck, and Dean McKeever. So coming up next, we have a little preview for you, and we'll see you next week. Enjoy. You've been listening to the 16-Ounce Canvas podcast. We thank you for your time. We thank you for checking us out. Music featured in this episode by Scarecrow Collection, the Clinton Administration, and Cool Keith. Keep it real, folks. Until next time, insert cool catchphrase here. And now, for a sneak preview of Episode 4, featuring Dean McKeever, Massachusetts-based artist who's doing some great work for Treehouse Brewing Company in Monsoon, Massachusetts.
Are you the guy I should be going to get the scoop on what's the new special beer coming out?
Yeah. I mean, like I'm what I'm working on right now as we speak is something like super under lock and key for Treehouse. You know what I mean? Like, but I don't tell anybody. You know, my fiance, she knows but she doesn't tell anyone. You know, but I mean, it's just like initially it's kind of funny. Like, when I first started doing the labels, like I didn't get it still about like how high, like in demand Treehouse was. Like I was working on, I think it was like my second label, which I think was a Curiosity label. That would have been 21. And like I had emailed Nate, the head brewer there, some sketches and stuff. And I like went up to the brewery and like I was talking to him and there's like a bunch of people around. And like, again, I didn't know that like these, you know, Treehouse fans are like, they're like sharks, you know, they're like frenzy up there. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, did you get those sketches I sent over for the Curiosity 21 coming out next week? And like I said that out loud, and he's like, you he like shushed me. He's like, no, quiet, come over. I'm like, well, what's wrong? I like didn't get it, and it was like it was like this super secretive thing. Like I just had no idea, and like I got in trouble one time too. Not in trouble, but he just like had to tell me like to chill out. Like I was like. I did the label for Bear, their brown ale.
Right.
And I was like posting all of my process sketches of all the different bear heads I was drawing on my Instagram. And I had all these like beer bros like lurking on my Instagram, like tagging all their beer homies, like, yo, check it out. He's drawing a bear. Like, you think Bear's going to drop next week? And I'm like, I like just didn't get it. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's kind of funny that like, that was part of the learning curve too. I was like, I knew that they were a big deal, but like I had never gotten my hands on such a big client before. You know what I mean? To keep it professional and keep everything under wraps. You know, so a lot of learning curve stuff. But